We've got folks from Yale and Harvard and Berkeley and UCLA and all the top schools.
We've got 18 to 24-year-olds that are spending 13 hours a day learning about how they can go out in the world and not really just save, but transform institutions for children. I mean, that's amazing.
It humbles me, and it amazes me that, these are going to be the next generation of leaders. It really does.
What we're looking at here is a place where the mission of the Children's Defense Fund becomes real, becomes acted on, becomes a place of not just problem identification, but problem solutions. We are looking to advance information that goes to our young people. We want to create an environment that is conducive to teaching and learning. When you come here, we want you to focus on the business at hand. We want you to know that when you come to the farm, you came for a reason.
This weekend, we've invited over 120 young people from across the country to come and learn organizing skills that will build power, that will leverage that power to build intentional relationships so that we can change the status quo. And we decided ultimately to start with the Underground Railroad because there is a story about how I've told you the story, right? There's a story about how people used to say, well, Harriet Tubman, what could you have done differently? Or what could you have done additionally to free more slaves? And she had said, if I had been able to change their minds so that, and make them believe that they were not slaves, then more of them would have been willing to undergo the Underground Railroad.
A lot of time when we do the Underground Railroad program, there's always someone who asks me, well, where's the train? Are we gonna get on board a train? And I have to tell them, no, there is no train, that was a code word for the secret society that helped people get to freedom. But y'all know that, right? Yeah. Excellent. So the program, this is the first time we've done it in Tennessee, and the program is going to consist of us being in here for about 45 minutes talking about the Underground Railroad, and then going out in smaller groups and having a night journey in the woods. And that's going to be a physical activity in the woods, old school. Compared to how it was back in the day, we are swimming in freedom. And the challenge that we have in the Underground Railroad is just like we took away our air for a little while to appreciate breathing and to understand what the air is like. That's what we're going to try and do tonight through experiential education, through experiencing some things. And I want to challenge you. Like I said, this is old school. This is no PowerPoint presentations. This is an old school program on purpose. And we want to challenge you to really do this, to really challenge yourself and get out there and have a positive attitude. And I swear, what you put into this program is what you're going to get out of this program.
Imagine yourself lying on your side in the belly of a ship. As people were coming across in the belly of this ship, do you think a lot of people made it? No, not too many people made it. It would be as if aliens came and did this to you, stripped you of your clothing, laid you on the shelf, shackled you at your ankles, and took you off to some place where you didn't know the language, you didn't know where you were going, and you were going with some people who looked way different from you. Because you have to remember, these are people in Africa. So a lot of them had never seen these people with this blonde hair and these blue eyes who had come to take them far away from their homes and their families. Think about the people that you love. Think about the plans that you have for your future. All of a sudden, that's snatched from you. You don't know where you're going. You don't know what lies in store for you. All that you know is that you have been violated in the most terrible, terrible way. You may not even know the language of the person who's laying next to you. Your husband or your father or mother or maybe your child is way down there on another shelf. And as Christopher said, things are happening. The smell, the bodily fluids, all of these things you are enduring, not for 5 minutes, not for an hour, but for days on end. You need to think about that. And that's what tonight's about, is using your imagination, getting in touch with your heart, and really understanding what the people went through, so we can make sure that humans don't suffer these kinds of indignities anymore.
They are where they are because of what happened in this Underground Railroad experience. This is a pristine opportunity for them to learn what was experienced generations ago.
We wanted to really tap into political consciousness, and how do we not only create the conditions from which young people and people of all places be able to rise and, and speak and own their own power, but also to change their minds. And so we wanted to open up then this training with the Underground Railroad to see that it's not just about changing the conditions, but it is about changing people's minds. And then we wanted to move that training into then what are the actual skills we're going to need to do that.
We got to figure out in our community how we can mobilize each other, how we can tap into what Paku was saying, our self-interest. What is the self-interest of the community? When we were out there, what was our motivation? To get home, to get dry, to get there together, right? What is the self-interest of our community? How do we tap into that?
We always talk about young leaders of the next generation. They have an important role to play on behalf of children. They can do it. They are change agents. This weekend, for me and CDF, the rest of our staff, our field staff, we're hoping to just build a foundation with young people.
What CDF is about is change can only come from the grassroots, and guess who make up a majority of the grassroots? These kids.
Throughout all great social movements, young people have always been the catalyst for change. And so we believe that our role is to then train the next generation of leaders so that they can step up.
The movement for me is just acknowledgement. Being able to stand up there and say that this is right, this is wrong. You need to have a voice about it. You need to stand up for what you believe in, and that's it. Like you're a grown individual. Like even though I'm young in essence, but I am too old to see the same things happen day after day, year after year, century after century. Like you got to make a change, and I understand it's not going to happen overnight. But for me to know that at least if I affected one individual, that's huge for me.
What I'm trying to find is what is your issue? What are the problems affecting you? And how can I help? Because before, like, oh, you could read about all this stuff and what's going on in the world, and I'm gonna do stuff about that. But like we just talked about in our session, find out what's going on in your communities.
That means working with people I've never met before and tapping into their networks and saying, you know more than me. Let me learn from you. I'm not a know-it-all. I don't need to know everything. What are you doing? How can I support you? How can I serve you in what you're doing?
Nobody's not talking about like the African American family as a whole, I see. And like that's like my real like deep-rooted passion is just to see like the Black families whole again, like to see what my grandmother like was talking about like when she was growing up.
I care about people and I care about making a difference in the community.
If you want to start finding a solution to a problem, you have to look at yourself first. You have to point fingers at yourself first. So you have to analyze yourself and where you stand with everything else going around you before you can decide to get out and try to make a difference. So I looked at myself and I thought that if I wasn't a part of the solution, then I was still a part of the problem. You can't stand by and see something wrong going on and say, oh yeah, it's wrong, and I can talk to somebody else about how wrong it is without me actually putting on my boots and going out in there and getting involved and helping make a difference.
Saturday, November 7th, we are doing our own Ohio YALT. Woo! At the Central State University, and we will be, we're selecting 125 student leaders. So we're creating an army, and these are going to be our soldiers.
What we would like to do is write a letter and then have about 2,500 signatures attached to this letter so that we could send to Senator Sherrod Brown, who is a Democrat and is already in support of healthcare. But the purpose of this is so that Senator Brown could bring this down to the floor while the debate is going on and say, this is what my constituents are saying, these are what people on the ground are saying. And we want to get this in by the end of, or within a week after November 7th.
When I'm with the young people, I mean, they come from some incredible struggle. And when you talk to them about how have you beaten the odds, you're here. You know, you were the chosen one to come of thousands of young people all over the US. You know, how did you get here? You know, a lot of it has to do with a positive interaction where someone said to them, no, you're not a prisoner. You're this. Or no, you're not, you know, fill in the blank. You're this. That, as well as, you know what, someone gave me a break. Someone gave me a chance.
They all care. They want to give back. They want to go out in the community and say, this is what happened to me. This is what I went through. So I want to make it better for the next generation. They care about the generation that's coming up behind them. They care. And that's all we need.
My mom had me when she was 16, and my father's been in jail my whole life. Like, the first time I saw him, I was 12, and I was like, why are you in here? It's my first conversation with the dude there. I'm like, why are you here? He was like, the man has rigged the system against me. I'm like, so after 12, I was like, yeah, that's fine or whatever. So I discounted what he said about the system. I said, you know, I'm gonna show you I could do it. So I've been able to be relatively successful, but that conversation with him struck me because I heard it from family members, from friends. I'm like, maybe something's to this. So being the bookworm nerd that I am, I'm high school, I really began to become conscious and start researching. I'm like, there is something to what my father told me. There is something to what my friends are telling me. Not saying that's the excuse, but it is a reality. So then just that experience and just growing up, eating, looking in the refrigerator and there's only a block of cheese. And I didn't know that was wrong. I was like, we got cheese, Mom? What's this big block of cheese that's been here for months? I didn't understand what was wrong until I got to college. And I told people that. They were like, that was government cheese. I was like, oh, Wick? Yeah, Wick, malto meal, things of that sort. Or begging my mom for a $1 food stamp so I could go get 4 beef jerkies before school. Right? So just being, because the statistics say if my father's in jail, I'm 5 times more likely to go to jail. Statistics say if my mother had me at 16, I'm 7 times more likely to have discipline problems in school. So just being able to, thanks to God, to be able to defy those statistics, I really think that the fact that I was able to do it means that everybody can do it, but at the same time, it also means that I have a responsibility to struggle and to speak and say yes. Because people, once you make it, like you just say, oh, I did this by myself, anybody could do it. And frankly, that's not true. Anybody can do it, but everybody shouldn't have to struggle like I struggled to get here. So I feel like the position I'm placed in, the research trainings like this, meeting people like Cassandra, has put me in the position to really articulate what's going on with these people and telling them that, yes, you can make it, but while you're making it, I'm going to fight so you don't have to struggle as hard as I did.
Being a daughter of a teen parent, people expected for me to be a teen parent myself. People expected for me not to graduate high school. People expected, had all these low expectations of me. And besides that, growing up in a low-income neighborhood that is filled with violence, with the rundown houses, with the not adequate, education. So I had all these society had these low expectations of me. And having to, like he said, having that block cheese in the refrigerator with that canned milk and having to go outside, learning to go to the tub because I hear gunshots, or learning I have to be in the house before the street lights come on because I may get robbed, or I have to look over my shoulder, or seeing that body in the middle of the street and having to go tell somebody to put a sheet over it because the police still haven't came 2 hours later. Those are some of the experiences I've gone through. That's what really brought me here. And it was in my little, and I see it in my little sister and my brother and people that I just grew up with. And it was for us not to have that low esteem of ourselves because society had these low expectations. I have to come here. I have to be here. I had to have this experience.
When the Black Community Crusade for Children and Mrs. Edelman and CDF decided to buy this property, Black folks, particularly African Americans, in many ways we're lost because we don't feel like we have a home. And home is really important to understanding identity, to understanding purpose, and for vision. And I feel like from Alex Haley to CDF, that there was a understanding and a priority that in order to move forward, we need a home. And I feel like Alex Haley is that home.
This is the place where I tap into my energy. This is home because I'm safe and supportive and secure, but I get my best ideas and I get light bulbs light bulbs come on when I come to Haley Farm every time.
Part of it is the geographic location, the culture, but I think there's this whole other part that has to do with what actually happens here. And I think specifically for me, the work that we do with young people around further building them as leaders so that they can go out into the world and affect change the way, you know, that we're trying to do through CDF. There's something really rejuvenating about that, watching them go through that process. And you know, I think it's so often that we approach young people with this paradigm of we know more, they know less, we know better, they know worse, and that's really not true. I think they know better. I think they know more. I think we just need to listen more.
If y'all don't want to get hyped, get hyped. If y'all don't want to get crunk, get crunk. You want to stop? Hey. You want to stop? Hey. You want to get up, get up. Hey. Let's roll. To the YALT training.
I'm a member of a special organization called Distance for Dreams, and every year we run a marathon in Disney World to raise money for the Special Wish Foundation. And the child that we're sponsoring has bone cancer, and unfortunately, his family does not have health care insurance or enough to cover it. So in addition to like raising funds for Disney, we're raising funds just to help cover some of his medical expenses.
We need comprehensive, affordable, simple, and seamless health coverage for all children and pregnant women.
I set up Facebook, and so we're going to be making up our petitions and sending them out shortly. By the 7th, and petition outreach to colleges, organizations, and we both were formerly associated with CDF, and we did Freedom Schools as well, and we were going to reach out to former servant leaders who are just as active and passionate to get them involved in our movement and our cause. Setting up a meeting. So we're not only just going to invite people from the community, different organizations, people from Freedom Schools, and anybody in the community who's interested, but also to possibly ask the parents that were involved in Freedom Schools to join, bring their children, and maybe to see if any of them want to be advocates, making a video or stepping up to speak about the causes and the issues, because they're who we target.
I think when we have these action plans, we can identify clear goals, and we want to teach people, young people, how to do that so that we can measure not only our successes, but we can mark the path that we're going towards. So that's what we're trying to do at this training.
The call to action, I think that is essential, because we can talk about all the things going on from here until the sun goes down, but that's not going to change anything. And I think that's why I applied to the YALT program. That's why I wanted to come here, because I was looking for something. I was like, I want to do all this stuff. And I talk to everybody. Anybody who knows me says, okay, yeah, she can talk about all the issues, but what are you doing? And I felt like I wasn't doing anything, because I keep talking, but what am I changing? What am I doing? And this program's actually giving you tools that seem so simple, but application-wise, it takes a lot of strength and effort to do that.
There's so many people who have so much potential. It's the application. They don't apply themselves. They don't do anything with themselves. They just think like, oh, I'm just a person from the inner city, so am I. And I went to college. I'm about to graduate. I'm doing things. And one thing I think at this program at YALT, at the training, one thing that I learned and I want to take back with me is that you can't change people. That you just have to change people's minds.
This place reminds me that there is an army out there of other young people. And it's not that one of us is special. It's not that one of us is a hero. We are all created to do this work. And the ones that got accepted are the ones that have realized it. And now we've got to go out into the world and tell our peers.
They taught us like what is a SMART goal, how to achieve that SMART goal, what are the deliverables, like breaking it down to make, not making it easier, but making it more like understanding and putting it in like lame terms where I can understand it and like teach it, go back to my community and like teach it. Not, it doesn't have to be in the training sense, but it could be more in the conversation tone where it's like, okay, this is what I've learned and this is what I could do, and do you think we could do this? Like trying to like build that like coalition, not even coalition, but trying to build that back, or morale back up with using like these SMART goals.
I think if you educate young people and you train them and empower them to go out and do it and help other people, you can't fail.
The main thing we want to do is skills building, is to give them the tools to do it. But I mean, other than that, they're ready. All we have is like the template. You know, we have these templates that someone came up with and we can say, okay, we know how to use this, we can teach you how to use this template, but they have it there. And I mean, also, I think it's the young idealism. I mean, they have the hope. They have, I mean, they've seen these, but these young people have seen a lot of defeat. They've seen a lot of tragedy. They've seen a lot of violence. They've seen a lot of the ills of our society, you know? But at the same time, their spirits are resilient.
I'm still angry, but my anger is not, a lot of that anger is internally directed at my father. That's what used to be. I'm mad at my dad, I'm mad at my mom, I'm mad at society. But now it's really using anger as a fuel to saying, I'm angry, so I'm gonna speak up. Let me go to your school and tell you how I saw my dad in jail and how I'm still going to college.
Being able to go to trainings like this and being able to like network or put step into like different waters, like help me develop or help me reword my anger, I could say, or redirect the way I act, or like rechannel my anger. So like I'm still like, I'm very, so like I am like an angry person. I'm feisty. I don't have tolerance for a lot of stuff, and I'm very direct into it, but I know how to channel it now, and I know how to say it, and I know how to, and I could flip it. Now I could talk to Senator Whoop Wop and then go back and talk to the homie from the block. Like,
if you wanted to see young people that were driven and motivated by something beyond themselves, they were driven and motivated to change the world. You come here and you see people singing and talking and hugging and learning, reading and writing, and it's all about children. There is something powerful about that, and all what YALT is about is helping people hone in on those skills. Let's sit down, create the skills, let's get organized, let's get mobilized so that we can go out there and change the world.
At the end of the day and at the end of your lifetime, you're gonna be remembered by your name. You know, not what you're leaving here with and stuff like that, but what did you do while you were here?
For me, I think the education of others, and whether, you know, I'm doing it through advocacy or whatever the case is, journalism, you know, I think we can do a lot, but we don't give ourselves enough credit.
Looks like really speaking truth to power, but just being cognizant that it's not about me, it's about a greater mission and purpose, and that my job here is to serve. I see myself talking. I don't know if it's preaching or speaking or doing a mixture of both. I see myself traveling community organizing. I see some sort of national campaign around this credible prison pipeline.
I still see me like in like the streets, still doing community organizing somewhere in California, like doing community organizing, being able to pass on this torch to the next generation and like teaching them what I've learned today.
This developing young leaders, developing young minds, I think it'll work. I think it will.
Miss Edelman always says about, she always says this is harvest time. So we planted the seeds when they were little, whether it was like a freedom school program or an after school program, maybe it was a Girl Scouts, and then, you know, whether it was a church group, then they became a middle school student, they maybe got their first job, went to high school, prepared themselves for college. Many of them would email us and say, what should I do for college? And now they're in college, and now is the moment where they're gonna be transitioning to adulthood, and so it's harvest time.